I'm going to pray really quick, and then we're going to get started. So, God, I just pray, Lord, that you would fill my mouth with the words from you, God, with words from heaven. God, I pray that it would penetrate people's hearts, God. I pray that if I say anything that's not of you, God, that it would fall on deaf ears, God. And I just pray that your presence would be felt in this place, and we would not leave here today the same way that we showed up. I praise you and thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so I'm going to be in Genesis 37, and we're going to talk a little bit about Joseph. So I'm going to start Genesis 37, 5 through 10. It says, "One night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. 'Listen to this dream,' he said. 'We're out on the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered and bowed low before mine.'" So let me start by asking this. Do I got any dreamers in here today? I feel like if I went around the room and I asked everybody, what's your dream? Y'all would all have one. Some of you would say, I've been believing that my kids would get saved, or I've been believing that I would get married, or I've been believing that I would have another kid, or I've been believing to be debt-free. I've been believing for all of these things. I've been believing for my marriage. I've been believing for insert fill in the blank here. I've been believing. And so in that believing, you become a dreamer, right? So we can all relate to Joseph in that he was a dreamer. And so as I studied that, I began to think about this. And so in verse 10, Joseph tells his dreams to someone, and they betrayed him. Now, how many of y'all have ever told somebody about your dream, and instead of them saying, "Oh yeah, that's a great one. I'm so glad that the Lord has gave you such a vision. I'm so glad that the Lord has imparted destiny and purpose into you," they don't say that. They say things like, "Do you know how much money that's going to take to make that happen? Do you know how dumb it sounds to be debt-free by $30,000 or $46,000 in student loan debt? You can't even afford to buy a house. What are you talking about?" People say those kind of things, right? So we know how it feels to be betrayed in that sense by someone that we've trusted our dreams with. And so in Genesis 37, that's what's happened to Joseph. But they aren't saying, "No, Joseph, you're so stupid for believing that your kids could be saved." And they're not saying, "No, Joseph, you're too dumb to think that you could have another kid." They're not saying, "Oh, Joseph, how dumb of you to believe that you could be debt-free." No. They're plotting his murder because they think that he's so stupid. And so I'm reading this, and I'm thinking about how Joseph is feeling. So y'all all know the story of Joseph, but he tells them his dream, and he tells his dad his dream, and his dad is wondering okay, I don't really know what this means, but his dad didn't dismiss him, but his brothers did. And so in an effort to be obedient to his dad says, "Hey, Joseph, go check on your brothers." So Joseph's like, "Okay, cool, I'm going to go check on my brothers." And he goes out here, and he's like, "Oh, there they are. I'm going to roll it over here." And as they see him coming up, they start planning how they're going to kill him when he gets over there to them. And so I'm just thinking about how Joseph feels, because he's excited. He's going to hang out with his brothers, like Donovan has brothers. And whenever they call and say, "Hey, bro, you trying to go hoop at the Y?" Donovan's like, "Yeah, I'm in there. Let's go. I'm hyped. I'm ready. I'm hanging out with my brothers. I'm excited." So he's excited to go hang out with his brothers, and he gets there, and they throw him in a hole. And I'm imagining Joseph sitting in this hole like, "What is this? Why am I in here? They're playing a joke, man. This is so funny." And as he's in the hole, he hears his coat that his dad gave him being ripped. And he can hear the thread tearing, and he's like, "What? Why are they doing that? Why are they tearing my jacket? It's cold outside. I need that. When they get me out of here, when this joke is over, I'm going to need that." And then he's in there, and he's hearing this, and he's thinking, "I don't understand what's going on." So they reach down there, and they pull him up. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, the joke's over." And he goes to give his brother a hug. But instead of his brother hugging him, no, his brother doesn't embrace him. He yanks his arm, and he throws him onto this caravan, and he sells him into slavery. And so now Joseph is sitting on a van, and he's like, "Wow, I was excited to see those people. I was excited to tell them about my dream, and they betrayed me." So the story goes, and so let me reiterate that Joseph is a dreamer. And now he's struggling because the people he trusted his dreams with dismissed him. So time goes on. Joseph's in Potiphar's house. He's being a great servant. He's obeying the rules. He's doing all the things, making all the right decisions. And Potiphar's wife tells a lie and gets him thrown into prison. So now, not only is Joseph struggling with the fact that his brothers betrayed him, he's sitting in a jail cell, I believe, feeling like, man, God has betrayed me.
That's good.
I thought all of this stuff was going to happen. I thought these dreams were going to come to life. I thought these promises were going to come to pass. I thought I was going to see my kids saved before I was 50. And I saw them relapse again. I thought I was going to be married before I was 30 and I'm 29. I thought I was going to have more kids by the time I was 26 and I'm 24 and still got one and that ain't happened in no time soon. I thought I would have started the ministry 10 years ago, and here I am, like, dang. I'm feeling like, is God even in this? Did he betray me? Did I hear what I thought I heard? Did God say what I thought he said? Y'all know what that feels like. And that's how Joseph is feeling. And so I wanted... This is just how I'm going to tell my story about feeling like God wasn't in something. So I wanted to buy this house. It was a perfect house. It was right next door to my mom and dad. Dad was telling one of his friends that we were going to get this house, and his friend was like, that's awesome. Like, whenever she has kids, they won't even have to cross the road. Like, they can just walk through the grass to get to your house. It's like the perfect house, y'all. We went and looked at it. It had all stainless steel appliances. It had a brand new dishwasher in it. They had laid new hard floors. It was like the dream. The backyard was already fenced in. I was looking at the house hey, you see that spot over there? That's where we could put a pool next summer. I was just really excited about this house. And so we call this mortgage broker, and he's like, I can't really approve y'all, but I'm going to work on it. And then he didn't answer the phone again. So I was like, he's kind of rude. I'm just going to ask someone else. So I called this other guy, and he was like, yeah, I can't really approve. Y'all hit me up in 8 or 9 months when you get your life together. And I'm like, no, because, you're a woman of God and your faith rises up in you. And you're like, that is not the report I'm receiving. I'm calling someone else. So I get in touch with Quicken Loans because I'm like, they have access to all of the loan stuff. They've got FHA, whatever other kinds of, whatever, I don't even know what kind of house loans there are, but they got access to all of them. So I'm like, I know that if Justin Turner would call me back, then I could get this house. That was our mortgage guy's name. His name is Justin Turner. If he ever sees this video, then shout out to you, Justin, because you did your thing even though we didn't get approved. And so, anyways, I remember the day that I found out we weren't going to get approved to this house. We were standing in line at Passion Conference, and we're at this Jesus conference. I'm thinking Jesus is about to show up at this conference. He's about to show up in this loan. We're getting this house, and we're standing in line this January of 2019, and Justin Turner calls, and he's like, hey, Kayleigh, guess what? And I'm like, what? And he says, I can't approve you. And I'm like, well, dang it. So all these 3 times, so in between all those 3 people telling me I don't get approved for this house, I'm like, okay, I guess God didn't really want me in this house. Even though I prayed that the house would stay empty until I was able to buy it, and no one bought it. So I'm thinking God's going to bless me with this. He didn't. And so I'm thinking, God's not in this. And so that's how Joseph was feeling as he's sitting in a jail cell. But let me jump down to verse 39. Let me jump over to 39. 19 through 23. It says this. 1 second. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. So Joseph becomes like the head inmate. Like, what is this? Like, this is crazy, right? And what I want you guys to realize today is that some of y'all are sitting in a hole of your darkness, in a hole of your circumstance, feeling like God betrayed you. And God is saying, while you're sitting here in the hole of your darkness crying, I'm here to remind you that I haven't forgotten your dreams. I haven't forgotten about your purpose. I haven't forgotten about those promises. And if you'd stop focusing on your hole for 2 seconds, you'd realize that I'm trying to give you the things that you've been asking for, the things that you've been praying about, the things that you've been wanting. Because we all know that sometimes freedom doesn't come in us getting out of the hole. Freedom comes from being comfortable while we're in it. And so that's what good. I feel like, that's what Joseph gets comfortable in his jail cell. And in chapter 46, I could read this whole story of Joseph, it would take me 6 hours. So, Jeff's not going to do that. We got another church service. But in chapter 46, you see Joseph's dreams come to fruition. So, basically what happens is, y'all know the story, I'm just going to run it down. So Joseph interprets the king's dreams. The king makes him second in command over Egypt. Famine strikes the whole land. And then Joseph's brothers and his dad come to him like, Joseph, we need food. They don't know it's Joseph. They're just hungry. But anyways, so his dreams come to pass right in front of the people that told him he was dumb. Can I tell you this morning that God has prepared a table for you in the presence of your enemies? Can I tell you this morning that it doesn't matter that they told you your kids was going to be on drugs forever. It doesn't matter that they told you your marriage was going to never get fixed. It doesn't matter that they told you were too worthless to get married. It doesn't matter that they told you were going to be stuck in debt for the rest of your life, because those same people that told you that are the same people that are going to be taking pictures of you on the day that your kid gets baptized. Those same people are going to be the people sitting in your wedding at the ceremony saying, wow, I told her she would never get married. Those are your enemies. And there is a table prepared for you in the presence of your enemies. Can somebody praise him like you believe it? Jesus.
Bless you, Lord. Yes. Amen.
Hallelujah.
So one thing that I want to add.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you,
that's so good.
yes.
God is so good.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
So when we found out that we couldn't get that house, and I remember sitting in my apartment, we had people over our house. I remember sitting in our apartment, and you know, like how you do, like sometimes you just say things to God, and you're like, if I say it, maybe he'll actually believe it, even though you know the truth in your heart. I remember sitting in our little 1-bedroom apartment, and when I tell y'all, it was little,
it was little.
Probably, seriously, our counter space was probably shorter than this little area. And that included the sink, the stove, and the stovetop. Okay, it was real small. And I remember sitting in that apartment, and I was like, and I have these dreams in my heart to have kids, to have space for Bible studies, to have space for my family to come watch TV with me. You know, just little small things. I have dreams of this. And I'm sitting in my house, and in my heart I decided, if I have to stay in this apartment forever, I'm going to learn how to be content with this.
Mm-hmm, that's good.
And within that week, seriously, after I made that hard decision, and then the next week, Dad, because he'd be scrolling on Mom's Facebook, talking about he don't like Facebook, but he'd be on Mama's Facebook all the time, so he was scrolling in Facebook Marketplace, and he saw that this house had come up for rent, 82 Keith's Drive, right across the road from Mom and Dad. And he had Mom screenshot it and send it to me. So I get the text message, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want that house. So we call the number, and the landlord just happens to be a guy that used to sit in Donovan's section at Cracker Barrel. And this guy doesn't like animals at all in his house. I'm the crazy cat lady, okay? I have a bunch of cats. And, I say 3.5. One comes and goes. So I have 3, and then one that comes and goes. But anyways, So we called this landlord and we're like, hey, we have 3 cats, and is that allowed? And he said, you know, I've never allowed animals in my rental home, sorry. But I knew the man was. And I said, and I knew he liked Donovan. And I said, are you Savannah Poole's dad? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, well, this is Kayleigh, Payne-Gary from Cracker Barrel, his wife. And he said, oh, you're Donovan's wife? He said, you know what? I've never made an exception for somebody that has cats, but I think I'm going to make an exception for y'all because we sure love Donovan. And I was like, you know, like in that whole 3 years that Donovan was going to work at Cracker Barrel, he was just working.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what God was doing was orchestrating an opportunity for me to have my dream of living next to my mama.
Thank you, Lord.
That's so good. It's so good.
And like,
Bless you, Lord.
the story's even cooler because
Yeah.
he told us we can do whatever we want to the house. You can paint the walls whatever color you want, and we're going to take off a pet deposit. So not only are you going to get to have your pets, you're not even going to have to pay for them to be there.
Right.
Thank you, Lord.
God is cool, man.
God is good. Yes, He is.
So anyways, I was just sitting there thinking about how Joseph had to feel. And while he's sitting in a pit, he's being obedient to the house rules. He's being obedient to the king.
Right. That's good.
He's being obedient to what he's supposed to do.
My.
And I think if in our heart we could get to a place where I don't have what I want, I don't have what I've been asking for, but I ain't going to stop coming to church, I ain't going to stop tithing, I ain't going to stop reading my Bible, I'm not going to stop praising, I'm not going to stop praying, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep moving because I believe that God is orchestrating something that's bigger than me.
Yes. Amen.
If we could get to that place.
Amen. Bless you, Lord. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Lord.
And I think, I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going to go here. I think that the key to getting the things that God has for us is not just obeying the rules of the kingdom, not just obeying the house rules, but it's praising while you do it.
Amen.
So I want to hop to Paul and Silas, and I don't know where it's at in Scripture, somewhere in Acts, I think. But he got locked in a jail cell. And as he was in jail, because they were going to kill him. He was in jail. They were coming to kill him the next day. He was like, it ain't time yet for me to give up on what God has for me. It ain't time for me to lay down and die. It ain't time for me to stop. The gospel's got to go forth. There's people that need to know Jesus. It's not time for me to stop moving. He's sitting in the jail cell. And he begins to pray. And as he begins to pray, he begins to get louder and louder and louder. And eventually the foundation is shaking so much, they called it an earthquake. But it wasn't an earthquake. It was the sound of his praises touching heaven. And when the sound of our praises touch heaven, something on earth begins to shake. Hello, can we get some praise, some earth-shaking praise going on? Because God is good.
Yes, He is. Amen.
All the time.
All the time, Lord.
So I think the key is not just to obey the house rules, but to let out a sound that touches heaven, that shakes the very foundation that not only we live on, but the foundation that our kids live on, the foundations that our cousin lives on, the foundations that 10 generations, but after we leave, our praises are still shaking the foundation for the next 1,000 generations, because that's what God promised us.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
That's right.
Hallelujah.
Man,
Glory
Yes.
to God.
Glory.
I don't know. I feel like there's something that God wants to do. I don't quite know what it is. I don't have anything else to preach. But I feel like there's something that God wants to do in this place. So I'm just going to pray. And as I pray, I just want you to begin to praise. Because the thing about Paul is that his praise started out soft. God, get me out of here. I got a purpose. I got a destiny. God, get me out of here. I got a purpose. I got a destiny. God, get me out of here. I got a purpose. I got a destiny. I got a dream. And as he began to get louder, sometimes we just got to start quiet. Some of y'all ain't bold enough to be loud.
That's good.
But if we could start quiet And let today mark a moment where we decided in our heart, where we decided in our spirit, I'm going to start quiet today. I'm not going to shout at church. I'm not going to run around. But I'm going to start quiet. And I'm going to say, God, I've been praying for years. Oh, but I praise you for the promise. It's not here yet. The foundation's not shaking yet, but I'm praising you for the promise. So I'm just going to pray. And as I begin to pray, Donovan, you can come play. But as I begin to pray, I want you to begin to pray.